Welcome to the Muskogee Municipal Authority meeting for October 11th, 2021. We will have the invocation by Councilor Tracy McGee, followed by the flag salute. Let us stand.
Let us bow our hearts for a moment of prayer. Heavenly Father Yahweh, thank you for this day. Thank you for guiding us and giving us strength to be able to endure the wiles of the adversary. Father, guide us tonight as we handle the business of the city. We ask this in your only begotten Son, Yahshua Messiah. Let us say hallelujah.
Attention, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Here.
Ivory Van.
Here.
Jamie Stout.
Here.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Here.
Alex Reynolds.
Here.
Stephanie Morgan.
Here.
Tracy McGee.
Here.
Tracy Hoos.
Here.
Item number 1.
Consider approval of MMA minutes of September 13th, 2021, or take other necessary action.
Have we all had a chance to observe the minutes? And if we have, are there corrections or motion to approve?
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Tracy Hoos.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes. Item number 2.
Consider approval of MMA claims for the month ending September 30, 2021, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Miller?
Yes, Chairman and members of the authority, you have before you the claims for the MMA. We do recommend approval. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any questions for Mr. Miller regarding the claims, or do we have a motion to approve?
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the claims ending September 30th, 2021. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Tracy Hoos.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes, that will end the meeting of the Muskogee Municipal Authority. We will now go to the Muskogee City Council meeting for October 11th, 2021. Roll call.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Here.
Ivory Van.
Here.
Jamie Stout.
Here.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Here.
Alex Reynolds.
Here.
Stephanie Morgan.
Here.
Tracy McGee.
Here.
Tracy Hoos.
We will consider the approval of the minutes for the City Council Special Call Session for September 20th, 2021, and regular session September 27th, 2021. Do we have any corrections to the minutes, or do we have a motion to approve?
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve those sets of minutes. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Tracy Hoos.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs. Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes. We will now consider the consent agenda, which consists of items numbers 1 through 6. Are there any items on the consent agenda that a councilor would like moved to the regular agenda, or do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Tracy Hoos. Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes. Item number 7.
Consider approval of claims for all city departments September 11, 2021 through September 24, 2021, or take other necessary action.
What is the pleasure of the council concerning the claims?
The committee did meet last week, and we move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the claims. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Tracy Hoos. Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes. Item number 8.
Hold a public hearing regarding the proposed creation of Increment District Number 5, City of Muskogee, and the Port of Muskogee Economic Development Project Plan.
We will now open the public hearing. Mr. Miller.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. In December of 2019, this City Council voted to approve the creation of a TIF district committee to consider a TIF district for economic development within the port. area here at the Port of Muskogee. That is proposed TIF District number 5. Since then, the TIF committee that has been appointed has met a few times. They've come forward with a project plan that they unanimously approved. And so I'd like to bring forward Nate Ellis with Public Law Finance Group. And he will give you an overview of the project that is in your packet. And again, that has been unanimously approved by the TIF committee.
Mr. Ellis.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. So, as Mr. Miller was saying, this committee was actually constituted coming up on 2 years ago. So a TIF district, for those of you who have not been involved in one, it's been a few years since the city has formally put together one. It's an economic development tool that allows the city to capture the increment of new tax revenue that's generated by virtue of development that occurs. Ostensibly, but for the creation of the TIF district, the project in question doesn't go forward. So a TIF district helps to allow the project or enable the project to move forward. The new tax revenue that's generated from that, in this case we're talking about ad valorem taxes that are generated from an investment out of the Port Authority, would be captured, and those revenues would be dedicated to certain project costs that are necessary to support the project. And so in this particular case, we've got a number of infrastructure projects that were identified. As Mr. Miller said, we actually met with the committee on a number of different occasions, kind of worked through a list of projects and really pared it down to a handful of items that were necessary to actually land the specific development project, a large industrial manufacturer, and I'll let the Port Authority people talk to you about that here in a minute. And then some additional infrastructure projects that would greatly benefit this particular manufacturer, but would also benefit and continue the viability of the Port Authority as a whole, as an entity serving all of its different tenants that it has. So I'll kind of quickly go through this presentation. A TIF district can be up to 25 years. What's been recommended ultimately by the TIF committee is actually a TIF that would last for 10 years. It can capture up to 100% of the local revenues. In this case, there was talk of whether we captured 50% of the revenues for a longer period of time, and ultimately the committee, which is constituted of members of all the different taxing jurisdictions that are impacted by this, they ultimately decided they thought it was best to move forward, capture 100% of the TIF revenue for a period of 10 years, get it paid off as fast as they possibly could, and that allows all of that valuation then to roll over onto the tax roll, so that ultimately they get a big win from this development in the fairly near future. They looked at the project plan that was put together, and you've got a copy of that, and ultimately made the recommendation. Separately, the Planning Commission met last week. It also moved or made a recommendation to you to move forward and adopt this project plan. This is the first of 2 required public hearings. So purpose tonight really is kind of a presentation of the plan and then an opportunity for question and answer from council and from members of the public. The second public hearing will be held during the council meeting in 2 weeks. So that's October 25th, Monday evening at 5:30 p.m. That'll be the second hearing. And we anticipate that we will also have on the agenda following that second public hearing an ordinance for your consideration that would formally create the TIF district. The tax jurisdictions that are involved: Muskogee Public Schools, Indian Capital Technology Center, the county health department, the Eastern Oklahoma Library District, and then the Muskogee County EMS District. Those were all represented on this TIF committee, as well as at-large members of the public, a member of the Planning Commission, and then the mayor served as chairman of that TIF committee. The district boundaries. Okay, that's what that one goes faster than the TV screen does. This is kind of a broader view. There's a blue outlined area. That's a general project area. That's a wider area. All we do is we understand some of these improvements are going to be outside of the actual increment district boundaries, which is the area shaded in red. That's where the manufacturing entity is going to be located on a single parcel. It's known as Tract D from the Port Authority. Only in that red shaded area are where the revenues would be captured. What does that mean? whatever the value of their property is that's placed out there, they will be subject to the same tax rates that everybody else does. So this doesn't increase anybody else's taxes. They don't pay a lesser rate than anybody else. It's simply the tax revenues that are generated off that specific property. That's what's utilized to fund the project costs that are identified within the TIF. The larger blue shaded area, we just kind of draw a big box around the whole Port Authority area because we know some of the projects are going to be constructed outside of the increment district boundaries, but they will benefit the increment district as well as other entities that are located within the port. The purpose here, again, twofold: to attract significant capital investment, and then also help secure the long-term viability of the Port Authority. It's anticipated the total development will be a taxable investment of about $323 million over the next 6 to 7 years time frame. Would create on the order of 225 jobs by year 5, all the way up to as many as 380 positions within 10 years. And it's projected that there's a list of about $11.1 million in TIF projects that were specifically identified in benefit of this project. There's flood protection improvements that would help, would build a levee and also help raise the elevation of the Track D site. That's about $5.1 million. And a lot of these project costs have significantly more cost involved, but there's a number of different grant sources and other local cost sharing elements that are as part of this. So this TIF really kind of helps subsidize the differential between the funds that are available and the funds that are necessary to actually complete these costs. There's Track D infrastructure improvements, specifically running a rail spur and an industrial road to the site. And then there are other port terminal infrastructure improvements, and these are the projects that benefit not only the Track D, but will benefit all of the entities in the district. And that includes improvements to the dockside rail, bulkhead, dock substructure, moorings, and terminal roads. As you recall, back in May, I believe, there was an election held countywide that authorized some general obligation limited tax bonds to be issued. And the county has proposed to issue 3 million of those in support. The idea is the company will actually pay the debt service on those bonds through lease payments on the building that would be constructed for them. So ultimately, those taxes never get levied on the public. However, to help support that debt issuance at the county level, the TIF would set aside $1 million in reserve to help make those payments if something went wrong with it, to help avoid having those taxes levied. And then there's organizational costs associated. And then one of the key discussion points with the committee was that ultimately we limited the TIF district to $15 million for total use of funds. So it's contemplated there will be financing on the front end to pay for some or all of these project costs. So there will be interest costs associated with that over the 10-year time horizon of the TIF district. But there's a limit placed on that the TIF wouldn't expend more than $15 million in total towards those $11 million plus the costs associated with financing. Different sources of funding that are out there that some are already obtained. There's a $4.9 million Economic Development Authority grant that's already in place that'll help with the construction of the levee and the elevation of Track D. There's about a $5.8 million Department of Transportation build grant that's received. There are other grant funding sources out there, $15.5 million for a RAISE grant that's been applied for, in contemplation that there'll be some funding through that. And then I mentioned the GEO LTBs, limited tax bonds that were approved by the Muskogee County. This is a map of the actual increment district. You see Tract D towards the bottom of the map, but then this also shows all of the different Port Authority and shows the location of a number of the improvements that are contemplated. And the TIF will be a 10-year TIF. Again, not to exceed $11,135,000 for the project costs, not to exceed another $3,865,000 for the financing costs. Any excess revenue that's generated would then be returned back to the TIF or to the taxing jurisdictions at the end. So it's not that the city gathers up all the money for 10 years and then just gets to keep the extra. Whatever's left over will go back to the school district and the county and the technology center. So ultimately it's beneficial to them, and it's contemplated based on this development that it'll actually generate about $18.6 million within this same time horizon. So again, there's some thought if things go a little bit faster or a little bit slower, that number might change, but that's approximately what we expect at the end would be available to go back to the jurisdictions. And then I've talked about the steps. Again, we'll have a second public hearing during the City Council meeting in 2 weeks on October 25th at 5:30. And I'm happy to answer any questions. We have Kimbra, Scott, and Scott Robinson from the Port Authority. I think if you want to make some remarks, I may have covered a lot of your stuff.
Happy to talk about projects.
Ms. Scott?
And I'm going to turn it back to that map because that's probably the best thing to look at.
Thank you. So if you'll take a look at what was passed out to you earlier, it's actually that map. I'm just going to go over real quickly a couple of projects that this investment would help us with at the Port of Muskogee. Some of you realize that there was an article in the paper a couple of weeks ago, Tulsa World actually, that announced the name of this company. We respect the name of the company, and we respect this company, and we're going to still hold it in confidentiality. So for today, we're going to refer to it as Project Constellation instead of what was mentioned in the Tulsa World article. Just for your information, the Tulsa World article was erroneous. They have not made a decision. They're still working on financing, and they hope to have everything in order to be able to make a decision before the end of the year. Scott and team have worked on this project since 2014. This has been near and dear to Scott's heart, I know, and now it's near and dear to my heart, especially since it was pre-flood. The letter of intent went out to this company pre-flood. There were things that were covered in the letter of intent, obviously, that were promised to the company. There were a couple of questions from the committee and why they ask the questions they ask. I mean, I understand why, but one of them was, for example, the infrastructure on Batfish Road. That road will be brought up to industrial grade and allow for heavy trucks to move product in and out of that facility along Batfish Road. The levee, obviously, is another issue. We actually worked with them pre-flood. I think they actually came to visit us in the I would say within 3-4 months after the flood. We sat out on the back patio. They asked Scott a couple of questions, and those questions were, what are you going to do to protect us from a future flood? Scott goes, you know, we're on that. We've already applied for an EDA grant. We're going to build a levee. We were successful with that. The maximum amount of that grant was $5 million. We got 4.9. We thought it was a huge success. Unfortunately, since that time, we've had some changes with, we're anticipating changes through the base flood elevation to go from 516 to 519, which is going to increase the price of the levee, and we don't know what that price is going to be. They're currently working on trying to identify what those costs will be right now. We have hired Meshach and Wood to do a phase 1. They're doing geotech, and we should know the results of that by the end of the year. We'll have a better understanding of how much the levee is going to cost, hence why we really don't know how much that project's going to cost. It was originally $7.2 million. Now we're looking at possibly $10 million. We just don't know. There were some questions regarding why would we be looking at waterfront infrastructure, dock substructure, moorings, etc. When this company didn't express a desire to ship by barge, to ship by water. I can use the example of Dow Tile. Dow Tile was a railroad shipper. They didn't want to do anything other than move their product via railroad. but instead they decided that, you know what, we're going to give barge a try. Scott continued to work on them, and they gave them a try. I'm not going to tell you how much they saved, but it's significant per ton, millions. So Scott and team seem to think that this company, even though they have not expressed a need for the use of, you know, the dock and moorings to be able to ship product up and down the river, he thinks that will come. And not only that, it's important to remember our infrastructure is 50-plus years old. And if we're going to invest in Muskogee, in the port, we've got to start now. And there's no reason why we shouldn't invest now and try to assist this company and try to add savings to their bottom line if we can by encouraging them to ship by barge. Some of the other items that were listed, the rail improvements, we obviously added this into our build grant, rail spur 2-track D. Currently we have the entire $13 million project paid for right now, except for $189,000. We anticipate that number going up just because we haven't started construction yet, and everybody knows what construction prices are doing right now. I think I've actually addressed every question that our committee had that we addressed, but if there are other questions regarding the projects, I'm happy to answer those.
We didn't have anyone to sign up to this item, but we will close the public hearing and now take questions from the council. Or,
Move for approval?
No.
So, yeah,
There's no action needed for this item.
Okay.
yeah, it'll be on, go ahead, Mr. Tucker.
We were just going to hold the public hearing, and then we'll need to do a second public hearing on the 25th, and then following that, we will have a proposed ordinance for the council's consideration.
do we have any other questions from the council on this public hearing before we go to the next item? Thank you. Item number 9.
Hold a public hearing and take action on the approval of ordinance number 4131A to rezone property addressed as 5028 West Mulgey, being more particularly described in the ordinance from C1 local commercial to C2 general commercial, and if approved, authorize staff to revise the official zoning map of the city to reflect said change or take other necessary action.
We will now open the public hearing. Ms. Callahan.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. This is a request from Ronnie Boswell as the applicant. The Inhofe Land and Cattle Company are the owners of 5028 West Mulgey. It is a request to go from the C1 general commercial to the C2 local, C1 local commercial to C2 general commercial, and it is to allow for more leasing options. This is the site. Instead of separate maps, you'll show the zoning classifications for the surrounding property. This is the current atlas map. The area is highlighted or shown in the star that shows the current zonings for the property. This is the picture of the site. There is that building, and then they have the warehouse or tire garage type building. And this shows the surrounding zonings. The strip along West Mulgey, there is a local commercial. There is a few properties that are zoned general commercial. The majority of the use along that West Mulgey strip is a general commercial use. There is, however, the residential property that is to the west there that is it's zoned C1, but it is a mobile home park. With that, again, the request is to go from the C1 local commercial to the C2 general commercial. Staff recommend approval. Planning Commission denied the request, and Public Works took no action.
Thank you, Ms. Callahan. We have 2 residents having signed up to speak to this item during the public hearing section. We will first call Shelley Suri. We'll ask that you will come to the microphone, give us your name and your address, and you will have 5 minutes.
Shelley Suri, 4904 West Broadway Street. I just wanted to reiterate what I said last week, that I am against a marijuana grow house in my neighborhood. There are elderly people that live in the area, children and families that live in that neighborhood. There is a school 3 blocks away, and to have that odor in your front door is inhumane. When people purchase their homes in that area, not once did anyone purchase their home in the hopes that a marijuana grow house would be in their neighborhood. I can't say that word enough. Neighborhood. It is so wrong to put a marijuana grow house in a neighborhood. Do you not care about the people and their health, or is it more about other people and their wealth? I say to those who want this marijuana grow house to put it in your front door and smell the stench and everything else that comes along with it. Let me give you a few fun facts about this to think about. Grow houses pose considerable fire risk due to custom electrical rewiring and the use of hot grow lamps. And when growers pirate electricity from the local power grid, they often put the entire neighborhood at risk for electrocution and fire. Grow houses often consume 6 times more electricity than a typical family, maxing out transformers in the process. Also, according to Oklahoma Medical Marijuana Authority, there are 94 licensed growers in the city of Muskogee. Also, common effects dealing with indoor grow houses include headaches, nausea, breathing difficulties, sinus congestion, sinus irritation, and skin rash. As well as growing marijuana takes an enormous amount of electricity. Just 4 marijuana plants take up the same amount of electricity as running 29 refrigerators. There is a lot of open, unused land in Muskogee that is not in the neighborhood that can be used for such a thing as if Muskogee needs another grow house. I am all for Muskogee growing, but not for putting a grow house in my neighborhood. Do you want Muskogee to be known for marijuana or for the betterment of its town and citizens? Think about how this will affect many people instead of how it will affect the pockets of a few. Thank you.
Do we have any questions for Ms. Suri? Thank you, Ms. Suri. The next resident having signed up to speak is Patricia Casica. Got it right, Casica. We ask that you come to the microphone, give us your name and your address, and you'll have 5 minutes.
My name is Patricia Casica. I live in the 5000 block on Oklahoma Street in Kershaw Heights. In 1989, my parents moved to Muskogee from North Tulsa. They wanted a safer place away from the drugs, the gangs, and prostitution. They built a home on their land in the Kershaw Heights addition. In the new millennium, the neighborhoods began to change. Meth houses and auto repair shops cropped up in residential areas. Today, homeowners in my neighborhood are still contending with these issues. And now we have the issue of the marijuana grow farms and the dispensaries. I am thankful that my parents did not have to witness the decline in the quality of life as it is today. At last Monday evening's meeting, I stated I opposed the development of a marijuana dispensary within 300 feet of my home. These residents were contacted, but the jargon and the explanation of this property was not clear. In coming to a meeting, my eyes were open to these changes that were about to happen, and so I'm here to speak in opposition to that. I brought up several quality of life issues that would impact the area in which I live, and Ms. Sellery has already mentioned some of those. Health issues as related to senior citizens and children and first responders. There are environmental issues, health risks to wildlife and visitors who visit the Honor Heights Park, and drain on the water, electrical, and pollution of energy and resources connected to residents' homes, schools, and other businesses. Marijuana farms are energy zappers, and they take away resources from the residents when they have to go off the grid. According to code enforcement brochure online under public nuisances, it is defined as, it says, what is a public nuisance? A nuisance is defined by the City of Muskogee Code of Ordinance as anything or condition which either disturbs, injures, or endangers the comfort, repose, health, or safety of others. unlawfully interferes with, obstructs, or tends to obstruct a render dangerous to passage of any lake or navigatable river, stream, canal, or basin, or any public park, which I've already mentioned, square, street, which is our neighborhood, or public property, or in any way renders persons insecure in life or in the use of property. This has to do with the decline of the quality of life issues that I mentioned. According to city ordinances regarding wildlife, water resources, in section 58, 2, 3, and 6, it states that parks are bird sanctuaries. And at Honor Heights, according to the ordinances, it says that they have the power to provide birdhouses, nests, watering places, and other necessary equipment to provide a habitation breeding place for all song and insectivorous birds. Prohibited acts: you cannot handle or disturb plants or flowers or any object or thing in any conservatory, greenhouse, propagating house, or nursery, or remove any flowers, either cut or uncut, or plants or property of any kind from any park or playground. My question is, why, even though the environment is important, our animals and wildlife are important, do animals have more rights than humans when it comes to their safety and where they live, their habitat? Some of the dangerous toxins that come from these grow houses include mold, which we already know causes wheezing, trouble breathing, respiratory infections, and exacerbation of asthmatic conditions. Carbon dioxide, which is an asphyxiant. Carbon monoxide, it interferes with the body's ability to carry oxygen. Pesticides, these growers use them to kill fungicides and other things that eat the plants. Acid-base corrosives are used for plant growth, and these cause skin rashes and other health issues.
Ms. Casica, I hate to interrupt, but
I'm sorry.
Your 5 minutes is up.
Okay. So these are just a few of the concerns that I have, and I want to say that I oppose this.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for Ms. Casica? No other residents have signed up to speak to this item. We will close the public hearing. Ms. Callahan and Mr. Miller, along with Mr. Tucker, we know that we have the proposal by Dr. Hughes that is being circulated for our review. We also know that Councilor McGee is working in concert with that proposal to have scheduled one public event so that we can have conversation. I would recommend to the council that we know while we are working, we're not done with our work yet, and that before we take action on this item, that we will table this item for 30 days to give us time to finish up our proposals, to be certain that we are not discriminating in how we exercise these policies concerning this issue. That would be my motion.
Second.
Mayor, before we vote on that, you said 30 days.
Yes,
the
sir.
Closest council meeting will be November 22nd.
Does that
Would that
satisfy the will of the council? November 22nd? Any other discussions on that motion to table? Roll call.
Tracy Hous. Yes. Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Callahan. Item number 10.
Consider approval to affirm and readopt Resolution Number 2368, maintaining current ward boundaries as originally established on August 8, 2011, as recommended by the Redistricting Committee, or take other necessary action.
Ms. Callahan.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. This is a request to reaffirm and readopt the resolution that was originally adopted in 2011. And with that, with the research that the planning staff has done, keeps the ward districts the same as they were originally established in 2011.
and this will hold until, for the next 5 years in keeping with the charter, that it's looked at every 5 years or as needed. It could be 2 years as deemed necessary by the council. So it's not set in stone. If it looks like there's something that happens with the population or the housing stock, then you could relook at this again. So it does reaffirm and readopt this resolution 2368.
Thank you, Ms. Callahan. Do we have any questions for Ms. Callahan or a motion to proceed as
Move for
presented?
approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on this item. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Tracy Hous. Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds. Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes. Item number 11.
Consider approval to authorize the city manager to execute an engagement letter with Crawford and Associates, certified public accountants, to perform audit preparation and produce financial statements for the fiscal year 2021 or take other necessary action.
Mr. Miller.
Yes, Mayor, members of council, what you have before you is an agreement with a highly regarded professional services firm that works in the field of municipal finance. They've been recommended to us by our auditors to assist us in preparing for next year's audit. As you know, we're having, as many businesses are, an issue finding staff, and finance is one of those areas. We do have open positions now, and we'd love for anyone to apply, and recommendations from council and the public as well. In the meantime, we'd like to engage this firm. We don't know if it will go over the $25,000 amount, but out of abundance of caution, we brought this forward to you so that if it does, it will go. It will have your stamp of approval, and you'll know that this is what's happening. So we do recommend approval. They do come highly recommended, and we recommend approval.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Do we have any questions for Mr. Miller or a motion to that effect?
Mr. Miller, is this our annual comprehensive financial report that we're talking about?
So this is this is not our auditors. So our auditors are a firm called Arledge and Associates. This is a group that will help us prepare for the audit. The auditors recommended that if this group comes in ahead of them, it will reduce their overall time and expenditure, and they will be able to prepare our financial statements as part of that. And since we're short-staffed, and they have been behind as well, Arledge, on our audits, this was a way to expedite the audit for next year.
Thank you, sir.
Do we have any other questions for Mr. Miller?
Move for approval.
We have a motion and a second on that item. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Tracy Hous. Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes. Item number 12.
Receive report on status of waterline leaks within the city, and if appropriate, provide necessary direction to staff.
Councilor Van.
Yeah, this is my item I brought in tonight. I wanted to know, a while back, we had a problem with a lot of water leaks, and we didn't have enough help for us working on our water lines. I know Cook Construction is one of our subcontractors, so I wanted just an update of, what the situation is now, basically.
Mr. Stewart.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. So, Mr. Van, I'm glad you brought this back before us because I feel like we've made some significant improvements. And I'm not ever going to stand up here and tell you in Public Works it's going to be perfect out there because we're over a 100-year-old city and we're going to continue to have problems in our infrastructure. But I am pleased to stand up here and tell you we have improved in the water distribution part. So when we were here in April, we were looking at right at 275 CAC reports, which is the Citizens Action Complaints. And to date, we've knocked that down to about 107 of them. And we know 40 of them are fire hydrants, and we've got a plan developed to approach those. So we're also working on that. Since April of 2021, we've added 6 new employees, and 7 are new or out in the field, actually. So we still do have a couple open positions, but when you brought it up back in April, we were very challenged to get 1 crew out, and we have continually put 2 crews in the field every day. We have also made significant improvement, as you mentioned, with the Cook contracting, And what that has done is that's allowed our guys not to have to work all night. So we do have one water department employee on call every night, and he'll go out and investigate the complaint, and if it needs to be repaired immediately, we'll call the contractor out. And then the contractor will repair it, and our employee will stay there to do the shutdowns and notifications. But that leaves our crews basically at home getting rest at night so they can come back in the next day and do their work. So I feel like that was a significant improvement. Worked with Mr. Miller on that at budget time, and we added $75,000 to the contractual services account that's taking care of that. We had $250 in there previously, now we're running $325. So $325,000 is helping us take care of those water leaks and after-hour complaints. Again, getting our guys on the street when they need to be. We've also traded warehouses with emergency management, and we have been in the process of cleaning our warehouse up, and we've made significant improvements. Now, we're still trying to keep our field work going, so it's rainy days and catch-up time when we go in there and clean the warehouse, but we've got it cleaned. It's a whole lot more organized, and we did budget for $10,000 to do some inventory software, so we're going to investigate that next. So not only have we cleaned it up and got it stored better, we're going to start trying an inventory tracking system. We also, to date, have already spent $45,000 in parts. We have plenty of parts and supplies on hand, and Eric Twyman, who is our new water distribution superintendent, is constantly working to put new stuff together. And by the way, I want to brag on Eric. He is taking the reins in that department, and we've made some huge advancements. Very pleased. Just really impressed with the performance that we've had in that department since April, and we appreciate your focus on it. It's helped us bring our focus back to it. Again, I'm not going to stand up here and tell you that we're going to be perfect out there, because our water lines are just too old, and they're going to constantly need repairs. And I appreciate the effort of my boss and you guys in putting more money into this department and help us get that thing under control a little bit better. Be glad to answer any of your questions, but again, Public Works is a department that receives mostly complaints, and I think we do a very good job with them. I can go up and down the street and find plenty to do, but I do feel like we respond. I think we're going the right way with our employee staffing. We've still got a couple of openings. We're constantly looking for people. But I'm very proud of this division. I'm proud of all of Public Works, but they've stepped up, and I think they ought to be recognized for it. I'll answer any of your questions.
Well, that's what I like to hear, Mr. Stewart, because like I said, back in April then, we were lacking on people, and, you know, we're doing, like, I see the difference, you know, and I'm glad Mr. Eric is on board, and Mr. Wyman is on board. And like I said, you know, it's good to always bring up different reports. You know, when we're out in the field working, it's always good to bring up a review, because that way, if we don't bring up a review, we don't know what we're doing as far as.
No, I agree. It keeps us focused.
It keeps y'all on y'all's toes, and it lets the council know what's going on. That's the main thing, because we have these constituents that call us and this and that. And so we need, at all times, sitting up here as a council, we need to know what's going on. At least I know I do in my ward, and Deputy Mayor does too, and everybody up here. We need to know what's going on in these wards. So I think you're doing a great job, and I'm glad you gave me a nice report tonight, and I'm glad we got some more help, so these city workers can go home and rest at night, because I know they're fatigued if they don't have more people. That's all. You know,
Well, that helps with the morale, too.
Go ahead, Mr. Miller.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I do want to add, since your discussion in April, we have included every week in our Friday report to the council number of water leaks fixed in that given week, a number of water-related citizen action app completions. So we do want to keep you up to date, even though if we don't come to the council, we are giving you that every week, how many water leaks we're fixing.
Well, I appreciate your report, Mr. Stewart.
Thank you.
Turn the floor back over to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Van. Any other questions for Mr. Van on tonight? Thank you. Item number 13.
Receive update on drainage issues within Eagle Crest Addition as per City Council direction, and provide any additional direction to staff.
Councilor Van.
Yes, another one I wanted to bring to your attention. because I want to find out, how the Eagle Crest is doing, if we're making any progress on that, because all that rain we got last night, I thought about this. And I just wanted to make sure that we're making progress on Eagle Crest.
So we have, where the concrete channel is, and as far as the city easement goes, we did agree to try and put that concrete back on a more efficient grade, and we have done that. We have taken the concrete out of the bottom that was too high so it wouldn't drain, and we did put it on grade. Now what we need to do is get approval from Mr. Coppage to go through his. We have given the attorney's office all the things that they needed to try to get that accomplished. We have checked the bridges that are out on 40th Street. Went out there myself with Mr. Miller last week, and they were open on the ends. I wanted to make sure that they were open underneath, so I actually sent somebody out there today to get down in the creek and look, and they are open. We do not know of any blockages that are in the property that goes through the county toward 69 Highway. We did have Tyler Evans take his drone and fly it last year when this issue came up, and we didn't see any blockages in there. And we do have video of that, which we can't find right now, but I do have still photos as well. And I was looking at those today, and you're always going to find some pockets of water, but it's basically open. The foliage is getting ready to die off again, and we're going to ask Tyler to fly it one more time through there just to ensure that there's no blockages in there. Now, this is outside the city limits, and it's on private property, but if we find some blockages, we'll go and try to get some type of access agreement in there to open it up. So as far as we know, everything is open and running as well as it can, and I'll have to let the attorney speak to the issue with Mr. Coppage.
We have a 2,000 square foot drainage easement that we have attempted to acquire from Mr. Coppage. We have had that area appraised, which came back at $7,500, and we have provided him notice with an offer for that and provided him 14 days notice. He did not respond, and so the next step will be to obtain a resolution of necessity, which will be the first step in the condemnation, and we anticipate that will be brought up back to you on the 25th of October.
Okay, also on that drainage out there, you said, I went out there with you, Mike, behind Mr. Hopkins' home. Now, we get that permission to do this. Are we going to run a drain pipe to the street, or are we going to make a pond?
No, sir. We're going to grade it until what I call it will drain itself out. So we'll grade it so that it will clear the water out, and there shouldn't be any standing. Now it'll move back toward the bridge. But I do have a set of plans. If I knew that question was going to be asked, I would have brought them. But that's the intent.
Okay, so
we call it daylight to water is what we call it. So you just cut the grade until it's got enough fall that it will run out. Okay, and that's what we provided Roy with. And it was like 1,200 feet that we needed to clean. It might not have been that much.
But with this, when we do that, where's the water going?
It will go toward that the bridge on 40th Street. Yeah, it'll make a left-hand turn, and
it won't go towards the street.
No, it won't go towards the street.
Okay, because I know
the street's already got enough water in it.
Right, it does. Because I know at one time we were talking about making a detention pond. Mr. Coppage has got a pond out there. The water goes in.
Yes.
It goes down to the bridge. To that ditch.
Yes,
it goes to the bridge.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna make it bigger. So we could get more water flow in there. So have we thought about that?
We have not talked about making that pond any bigger. In my opinion, it doesn't need to be, but I will remind you that one of the things that we did have accomplished this year is to do a master drainage plan. And one of the areas identified in that master drainage plan is the Eagle Crest addition. So if something like that is needed, then at that point in time, we'll ask them what their opinion of it is. And that'll be put back in a report, I assume.
So my understanding tonight is that I'll see what you're getting ready to do.
So before you go, I get forgetful. I'm sorry. I apologize. But is there any house out in Eagle Crest that you know of that's flooding? If it is, it's unknown to me, and I want to make sure I know that.
No, it's not, Mike.
I just want to make sure.
It's not the flooding problem is the homes. Yeah. It's the flooding problems is they getting stranded out there and can't get out.
Yeah, sheet flooding.
They're stuck.
It's
both ways.
Sheet flooding is what we call it.
Yeah. No, my knowledge is there's never been a home out in Eagle Crest flooded. It's just that they're in danger.
It comes up fast and it goes down fast. But while it's up, it's hard to drive through. Yes, we understand
And I want to make this, I want to get a good understanding on this. We've cleaned the ditch going towards the bridge, and the bridge is clean all the way.
It's clean underneath.
Okay, going into the other people's pasture, we got permission yet to go on that land?
So that's what we flew last year in October, and there was no blockages in it. And that's what we're gonna fly again as soon as the foliage is down, so in another 30, 60 days, we'll be out there doing it again. We can fly it now, but we're probably not gonna get a good look at it with the trees and the greenage that's out there. So give it just a little bit longer, and it'll all be down, and we'll be able to get a good look at it.
Okay. But
And it's not backing up to the bridge, Ivory, so I doubt there's anything serious in there, but we will take a look.
was there any way we can get permission from them? So if it is, it's best to be ahead of the game than behind the game.
So that's Mr. Seibold's property, and Jason actually knows him and was going to reach out to him, but hadn't been successful in contacting him yet. I don't see a problem in it, but the urgency to get in there is not as great right now. If there was something in there, we'd be working diligently to get it done, but as soon as we get it flown again, we'll know more about it.
Okay. I just like I said, I just want your request taken care of, because I wouldn't want to be
Me
trapped.
too.
I just don't want to be trapped. Want them people out there trapped. But I appreciate your report. And thank you, Mike, and thank you, Mr. Miller. I'll turn the floor back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Do we have any questions for Mr. Van? Thank you. We have two citizens signed to speak to us tonight. The first one is Dustin D. Robertson. I'm going to ask that you come to the microphone, give us your name and your address, and you will have 3 minutes.
My name's Dustin Robertson. I live at 901 North M Street. Hello. Thank you for letting me meet with you tonight. I'd like to talk to you about the bicycle riding, meth, and property crime problem we have going on. I lived here and grew up here. I graduated in '85, ended up moving away in the early '90s to Salt Lake City and lived there for 30 years, where I was a land surveyor and then started my own business. My parents always lived here until their deaths, and on my yearly visit, I'd watch as the city is disintegrated into what we see today. My wife was diagnosed with Crohn's, and we needed to get out of Utah and out of the elevation, so we moved back in December of 2018 for health reasons and less pollution. I was shocked at what I've seen since then. Every day, I, as well as you, watch the drug-addicted BMX bike crowd, as I call them, riding around town. 30, 40, 50-year-old men and women riding around on 12-year-olds' bicycles. Morning, noon, evenings, nights, there they are. We all see them. As a small business owner, I was up at 4 in the morning the other day to be in Tulsa to work by 5:30. I was out in my front yard having a cigarette, and 2 rode by me at 4:15, packing backpacks full of stuff. I'm sure they were stolen. They rode up to me before and said, "Could we have a smoke? Here, I'll trade you a purse." These are the drug addicted that commit so many property crimes. We are called Muskogee for a reason. They are committing property crimes and moving meth on stolen bikes with apparently no worries about police contact. If the police department sees a 30 to 60-year-old man or woman on a 12-year-old's bike, they need to stop stopping and questioning them. There is no reason for a grown man or woman should be riding these bikes unless it's a parent riding home his bike that was stolen. And I hear what you're thinking, what about their civil liberties? Well, my son got patted down walking home last week by MPD under the guise of a report of someone going through cars. If you apply that same logic to this problem, I'm pretty sure plenty of bikes get reported stolen weekly, if not daily. If not enough get reported, we can get on the What's Going On Muskogee page and make sure everyone reports a stolen bike so they have probable cause. There is a perception that the Muskogee PD would rather write law-abiding citizens tickets than be proactive and do what needs to be done. They're quick to pull us over for running a stop sign or having a tag light out, but they let grown adults on BMX bikes ride right past them with stolen stuff or meth in their backpack. I've seen 2 public incidents of drug use in the last month. Somebody shooting drugs on their front porch, and the other day right in the first parking stall at the post office. If we're ever going to be taken seriously as a city, this is something that the police department has got to get under control. And I would hope you would charge them with being more proactive. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Robertson. The next citizen signed up to speak to us tonight is Mr. Ivory Van. I ask that you give us your name and your address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Mr. Mayor, may I had an extension for two more minutes.
Motion
I'm gonna
to
do my best
give-
to get through.
Move for approval.
We have a motion and I'll second to give Councilor Van 5 minutes to speak. Roll call.
Tracy Hous. Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds. Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes, Councilor Ivory Van, if you give us your name and your address, you'll have 5 minutes.
Ivory Van, 4338 Columbus Street. Reason I was bringing this to your attention tonight, I've been in 3 events, one Friday, Saturday, and one today. And the first event last Friday was the Wish with Miss Hibbs, her organization, which is, for domestic people here in Muskogee, women in domestic homes and stuff. And I think that was a great event. And this is the second year I've won that trophy for dressing up, walking in a woman's heels. I would have brought the trophy, but I forgot it. So that's the reason, but I always want to thank you, Ms. Hibbs, for all the hard work, with the Wish, what you do with the Wish. The second thing is, yesterday we was at that St. Mark Baptist Church with Miss Evelyn Reese's dedication of the street signs on the highway. They really good, but I went down there this morning and I didn't like how they hadn't tightened the signs up good. You know how picky I am. So I got a hold of Avery. He's going back and see if the highway department was straighten them up and get them a little better than what they are. So that was one thing, and I thought it was great yesterday because Ms. Reese was the first black councilman here that made a provision for me and Councilman Reed to be up here, and Councilman McGee. So that's the second one. And the third one was today. The day is Columbus Day, but it's called also Indigenous Peoples Day. And I went to it, and the mayor was there. We went and we marched in a march around the Civic Center this morning, and that was great. And I stayed for all the activities. And y'all probably see this blanket right here, and it's a very beautiful Indian blanket. Me and the mayor, we both were presented with one today, and by Mr. Mike Turbo. And the reason he presented it to us is because he came up here at that mic and he asked one night about Indigenous Peoples Day. So I brought them, when he did that, I brought it to the council's attention, and I put it on the agenda, and everyone passed it at that time. So it was a great event, so I want to give him credit for what he did, to come up here that night. So also they have a program that they meet when this day is coming up, it's called MONA. And MONA is a group that gets all this stuff together. So what I learned today was, I learned about stickball, I learned about gore dancing, I learned about shooting the bow and arrow the proper way, I learned about basket weaving, and those are just some of the things that I learned that I didn't know about. And like I say, I wish everybody could have been there today because there was a lot of young people from Muskogee High, Bacon, everywhere. And next year, if you can, please go out and support the Indigenous Peoples Day because, like I said, they have a very, very good organization, as the mayor, he can tell you because he was there. But it's all about learning each other's culture because a lot of Indian culture I don't know anything about, but I learned it today. And I also had some of them nice Indian tacos they're always talking about. So as a city councilman, I always try to go to different things, Hispanic things, Black American, African American events, white events, Caucasian events, if I'm saying it properly. I try to mix it all up because we can all learn from each one of us that's in this room. We don't just have to stick to our own event just because I'm an African American. I just go to all the African American events, but I don't do that. I try to go to everything. And I appreciate today, then Miss Megan Kelly, she's coming next. I'm gonna put her on the agenda for next time we have Public Works. So she's gonna give a thorough report of what we went through today for as Indigenous Peoples Day and all the activities and everything. I was just trying to get through it quick. So, because I know the mayor, we got to go somewhere else. So I'm going to turn the floor back over to you, and I'd like to thank the Mona group, and I'd like to thank the tourism group for giving Mona the money to put this stuff on. So I'm going to turn the floor back over to you, Mr. Mayor, and we had a great Indigenous Peoples Day here in the city of Muskogee, Oklahoma. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Van. Item number 14.
Consider an executive session to discuss and take possible action on the following. A, pursuant to Section 307, C11, Title 25, Oklahoma Statutes, Consider convening an executive session for the purpose of conferring on matters pertaining to economic development within the central business district and also the southwest quadrant of the city, and if necessary, take appropriate action in open session. B, pursuant to Section 307B4, Title 25, Oklahoma statutes, consider convening an executive session to discuss the workers' compensation claim of Jeff Lester, and if necessary, take appropriate action in open session.
Do we have a motion to go into executive session?
Move for approval.
We have a motion and a second to go into executive session. Roll call.
Tracy Hoos.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes, thank you. Those of you who do not need to be in executive session, we ask that you excuse yourself from the chamber at this time.
We're going to call back to order tonight's city council meeting, reconvening from our executive session. Roll call, please.
Mayor Marlon Coleman. Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Here.
Ivory Van.
Here.
Jamie Stout.
Here.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Here.
Alex Reynolds.
Here.
Stephanie Morgan.
Here.
Tracy McGee.
Here.
Tracy Hoos.
All right. We have before us items 14A and B. Mr. Tucker.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Pursuant to Section 307C11, Title 25, Oklahoma statutes, the City Council did convene an executive session for the purpose of conferring on matters pertaining to economic development for projects within the Central Business District and also a project within the Southwest Quadrant. After being briefed on the status of those claims, I believe we have some action that will need to be taken in the form of 3 separate motions based upon each of the projects discussed. And we'll take those one at a time.
All right.
The first one will be a proposed motion for the first one would be to approve an economic development contract with Edith Torres Nelson Almodovar, 211 North 3rd Street, LLC, within the Central Business District for a downtown loft project, loft apartment project.
All right. Have any questions for Mr. Tucker or a motion at this time?
Move
for
for
that one?
approval. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Tracy Hoos. Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. The second project is also in the Central Business District, and I think a proposed motion in this regard would be to authorize the negotiation and execution of an economic development agreement with the developer in the Central Business District within the parameters discussed in executive session.
All right. Questions on this one?
Move for approval. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Tracy Hoos. Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds. Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes. Item passes.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. The third proposed motion will be for a proposed development in the southwest quadrant of the city. And I believe in that regard, a proposed motion would be to authorize the negotiation of an economic development agreement with the developer within terms discussed in executive session and directing staff to bring back that agreement for further consideration.
All right.
Second.
Have a motion and a second on this one. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Tracy Hoos. Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes. That item passes. 14B, please.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Pursuant to Section 307B4, Title 25, Oklahoma statutes, the council did convene an executive session to discuss the workers' compensation claim of Jeff Lester. After being briefed on the status of that claim and the possibility of settlement, I believe an appropriate motion would be to authorize the city attorney to settle the claim of Mr. Lester within the range discussed in executive session.
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second on this one. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Tracy Hoos. Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van. Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes. 14B passes, and with that passing, that concludes tonight's city council meeting. We are adjourned.